bag tag on it and take it in. I didn't have to show any ID. I didn't have to, in fact, a friend of mine, one time we were speaking at the same college during the week, and the plane tickets were really expensive. And so I flew over there as Tom Tufts and flew home as Jeff Port, and he flew over there as Jeff Port and home as Tom Tufts out of Chicago O'Hare. We never showed a piece of ID. That wasn't that long ago. Now it takes you an hour and a day to get through security. Why? Because we learned a lesson. And I don't like the fact it takes me an hour and a day, but I'm glad those people are doing their job. Right? And so there are some things in life today is very different. We should remember the lessons that we learned from the past. Because there were people, even in this church, who were visionaries, who started this place, and they were pilgrims, if you will, who risked it all to come here. And there's good value in that, to remember how we got where we are today. The past isn't all bad. It's not all good, but it's not all bad either. And for you and I, it's not our job to snuff out or forget the past, but to build on it, its foundation. And the things of this faith have lasted thousands of years. It must be okay. It must be pretty solid stuff. Christ came to fulfill God's law, not their law. This is the key point. When Jesus said, I came to fulfill the law, he's not talking about man's law. He's talking about God's law. And there's a part of the law which says, I've done everything that I am required to do. For example, the law said that if your neighbor needed some help or needed a coat, that you should give him your coat and that you should carry his stuff for 1 mile. That was the law. Okay, so I'd walk my mile and I'd drop the stuff. Why? Because I've done everything that I'm supposed to do. That's it. I don't have to do any more. I paid my debt. Right? Jesus came to teach us about the law of love. Jesus said, I'm telling you, you should carry it 2 miles. You see the people going, huh? There's no way. What do we do if somebody offends you? Jesus said, you've heard it said, but I tell you, forgive. There's a story about the hitting on the other cheek. You know what I'm talking about? You know, if you've been abused. And I don't know if you know the significance of this. All right, come here. I want to slap you because you're kidding. That's fine. Let me show you why they do that. The Jewish people, the right hand was a symbol of power. That's why we shake hands with our right hand. It's a symbol of our power, our strength. Okay? They would never, ever hit someone with this side of their hand, because that would show respect. So they would hit with this hand. And so if I was going to hit George, if I was going to slap him in the face, I would slap him this way. Because that's ultimate disrespect, to use the back of my hand. Okay? Okay, so now, if I hit you on this side, and now Jesus says turn the other cheek, where would you stand? Now what do I have to do? I have to show him honor if I'm going to slap him twice. So you see, the symbolism of that is huge. Somebody slaps you, say, all right, slap me again, because I'm a human being. That's huge. And so, thank you, you're very good. I'll put a bonus in your check this week. So when Jesus is coming not to fulfill their law, he's coming to challenge it and to say, look, there's a higher law. And it's not the law of duty, it's the law of love. This is why, I know this is going to sound whack, I don't believe in tithing. I paid my 10%, I'm done. My 10%, I'm good. I'm out. 10%, I'm gone. What did he say to the one guy? I want you to go home and sell half. And what did he tell the other guy? Go home and sell it all. Tithing is a principle. Tithing is a minimum. The law of love is bigger than that. The law of love is bigger than, I did my bit. And I have a relative who's a very wealthy man, and he writes his 10% for the year, and he keeps all the rest for himself. And I've dared him. I said, well, what are you going to do if God comes knocking? He goes, I paid my 10%. I said, you paid it? Like it's a bill? See, that's a heart issue. What would you do if God said, sell it all? Move away. What would you do? It's the law of love. It's bigger. Jesus aimed to satisfy the law of God, and with that, there's always a limit. But under the law of love, Christians should aim to show our gratitude for the love of God. And under that law, there is no limit. There is no limit to what we can do or should do. So what Jesus put before us to fulfill is not the law of man, but the love of God. Not the law of God. God's love implores us to do more. So here's the challenge. Unless our lives move beyond a list of do's and don'ts, then we're just living like the Pharisees. It's that checklist spirituality. If we've got God and these rules in a box and we think we're going to stay there, then we're just like the rest of these guys. Unless we move to the law of love, then we're still thinking like humans. We're not thinking in God's perspective. And lastly, unless we're willing to rethink and recommit and refocus, then we'll remain stuck in our religion. Unless. I want you to think about this. Our culture is full of people that are spiritually interested but religiously turned off. They're interested in spiritual things, they just don't want to be religious. What's religious? 800 pages and 63 subjects. Can't measure up to all that. I'm only going to get to page 3 and I'm out. You know, because sooner or later you're going to get caught in it. And so we have a lot of people that are really interested in spiritual things. They're even interested in Christ, but they're not interested in being Christian because of all the rules. Here's the rules. Love God with your heart, your soul, your mind, your strength. Love your neighbor like you love yourself. If you and I would do those 5 things, everything else would find its place. It really would. And I think we walk around with our little magnifying glass trying to find chinks in the armor of the guys and gals that we worship with or that we work with, rather than walking around just loving on people and seeing what happens. Last week I challenged you to see how many conversations you would have this week. That's what the little white piece of paper is on your chair for. How many conversations did you have that were about your faith, or about prayer, or about God, or about the cookout, or Bible school, or whatever? And when we do the offering in a minute, I want you to write that number on there and stick it in the offering plate. People aren't going to come to Christ, people aren't going to come get right with God until they can connect with people. Because you and I are the conduit for some of that. And our story's simple. I used to be like this, I ran into Jesus, and now I'm like this. And what's our mission? Connecting people to people and people to God. That is our mission. That is the law of love. My mom and dad are wonderful Christian people. And I knew the rules. You guys had rules at your house, most of you? I knew the rules. My family's rules seemed to me about that big. Didn't seem like I could have any fun. Didn't seem like all the rest of my friends, they could stay out as late as they wanted. They could do whatever they wanted. I was a senior in high school, had to be home at 11 o'clock. That's p.m., teenagers, not a.m. p.m. That meant pick up my girlfriend, go get a burger, go to the movie, take her home, be back across town at 11 o'clock. Not 11:05. Didn't have no cell phone to call and say I'm 2 minutes late. I knew when I came off of 131 and I was driving down West Main that if the lights were flashing at Drake Road, I was already late. I knew. I had a job, I paid for my own car, I paid my own insurance, I was an incredibly responsible young man, and I had to be home at 11 o'clock. Because my dad had a saying, anything happening after midnight is sin. He's right. When you're 17, come on, it's pretty close. I didn't understand. I didn't understand my parents and why they had such boundaries. Okay?